Hey everybody, I'm Spencer Aronfeld and welcome to the Trust Me, I'm a Lawyer podcast. With me today as always is my co-host Nory. How you doing, buddy?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. Happy Friday to you.
Vice versa.
Been a hell of a week for everybody. We hope you're home and safe and healthy. Nory, we have a super special guest with us today. Tell everyone who we've got.
Well, today we have Alex Saiz, who's a criminal and immigration lawyer in Miami.
Criminal defense lawyer.
Criminal defense lawyer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And as well as he has a lot of work that he's done in the Camilla's house.
He really is. They should probably name the Camilla's house after him at some
Right.
point because he's a fixture there. He's a super special guy, and he's spent a large part of his career at the public defender's office. So welcome to the podcast, Alex.
Thank you for having me. Great to see you, Spencer. It's been a while since I've been able to see you face to face.
I know, it's great to see you too. I miss you.
Yeah, I have to get back to Lawyers for the Rescue. An amazing organization you started. That's where I first met you, and that's where actually I first met Nory when he was a high school student helping out.
I know. And now he just finished his freshman year of college, so he's technically a sophomore in college. So it's just great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So first, Alex, for people who are listening to the podcast for the first time, you're our first guest who had spent a lot of time working in public service at the public defender's office. How long were you there?
I was there from about 2009 as an intern to November of 2019, so 10 years.
Wow. And at the public defender's office, well, first of all, tell people what public defenders do, because it's an amazing service you provide all of us.
So when a lot of people understand what lawyers do from TV, from movies, or their own experiences. When somebody gets arrested, they need somebody to represent them in court. Unfortunately, I'd say the vast majority of the people who get arrested can't afford their own lawyer. So we are lawyers who are court appointed to represent them at little to no cost, so that they can have somebody fighting on their behalf. So it's a difficult job because the caseloads are high and we don't pick clients. It's everybody who's assigned to a certain type of case or courtroom. But at the same time, you don't take it because it's an easy job. You take it because it's so hard and because you want to be a service to this community.
It's a special breed of lawyer. And I have to tell you, I've always admired public defenders. I think that's the highest calling.
It's a special job. It's not for everybody, and I warn people about that. It's not for everyone to do, but it is the lows, the hard days are hard, but the joys, the ability to actually serve your community is so high that it's easily the most treasured memories I'm going to have in law are going to be from the time I spent there.
Well, and it starts with that presumption of innocence that a lot of people have to accept and embrace. When they're talking about the work that the public defenders do, because I'm sure you were often asked how you could possibly represent some of those folks that you have represented.
All the time.
And so what would you tell them?
I think that we all experience law differently as it gets closer to us. If we see somebody on the street getting arrested by the police, we assume they're guilty. But if we hear a family member of ours or a friend got arrested, we naturally assume they're not guilty because we know them.
Right.
I would just ask, would you give that same level of respect or deference or belief that they're innocent to a stranger? And everybody is someone's child or parent or loved one. Everyone deserves to have somebody advocate for them. I think there's this myth that we go in there and we just, somehow trick people into finding them not guilty. The thing we defend is the Constitution. The same thing that protects my client would protect me, would protect you, would protect Nory and anybody else. So I don't think there's anything wrong with walking into court and asking, are we sure this person's guilty? And if the answer is we're not sure, then the Constitution and our freedom requires that person to be freed. And I don't have a problem with that.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I tell people my own personal story. It's not something I'm necessarily proud of, but it's not something I'm ashamed of. I've represented a fair number of my own family members in Miami-Dade criminal court. So to me, when people ask, I've had clients ask me when I'm giving them advice, well, what would you tell your father or your brother or your cousin? I can tell you exactly what I would tell my family members because I've done this.
Wow. So, yeah, and the other aspect of it that I really respect is that it keeps the prosecutors in check. It holds them to the rules of the road and to the burden of proof. I think that's an also invaluable service that you provided the community.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not usually in the practice of just attacking prosecutors. I think everybody is trying to play by the rules, but I think if you don't have a balance to what they do, the people who are going to suffer are the people in custody. And again, when it's a stranger you don't know charged with a horrible crime, we have this idea that that doesn't matter. But if it doesn't matter to them, it doesn't matter to anybody.
Wow.
And that's where we lose the freedoms that we all enjoy.
So in the years you were there, what kind of cases did you defend?
Oh, I was very fortunate to have a varied experience because the public defender's office in Miami particularly does a great job of training you through different fields. So I started in misdemeanor cases, everything from driving without a license, DUI, misdemeanor marijuana possession. I did juvenile cases, which went up to felonies. My final case there was murder. We did a murder trial that was, a very, very difficult case. But also during the time, I spent 3 years in our office's kind of cutting edge Padilla division, handling immigration consequences of criminal conduct. As you can imagine, Miami has a large population of non-U.S. citizens. So I was tasked with advising all of them that came during that period on what their potential immigration consequences were from their open criminal cases. And I did a count when I left that division. I'd at some point reviewed over 10,000 individual client cases for immigration consequences from over 130 countries.
What a spectacular experience and depth of knowledge you have. So and we applaud you.
Oh, thank you.
What led you to make the decision to transition from public service to private practice?
A lot of people assume it's because of the money, but to me, it was more, I wanted to be able to have a more varied type of cases and have a little bit more control over how I represented people. Any office, when you're working for a public defender's office, you're working for the government. And so there are obviously specific conflict issues that have to do with pro bono work and things like that I didn't want to do. There were other opportunities I had to serve, be it through Camilla's House, through Lawyers to the Rescue, through Guardian Ad Litem, that as an office would create conflicts. So I decided that I'd done my service and I wanted to be able to serve clients in just a different way and have a little bit more say and control over what I was doing.
So tell us about your new venture. It's the law offices of Alex Saiz. Is that what it's called?
The law offices of Alex J. Saiz. I remember I was talking to my mother. My mother was a very big influence on me because from the time I was 8 years old, we were done with Sesame Street and we were watching Perry Mason and LA Law and all of those things.
Oh yeah.
To be fair, she wanted me to be a prosecutor, so I kind of missed mark there, but I kept trying to come up with clever names for branding or law office. She's like, "You're Alex Saiz. You're the lawyer. It's the law office of Alex Saiz. That's what makes sense." And so I agree. I very much believe in you put your name out there because you're the attorney and you're the one who the buck has to stop with.
And so where is the offices of Alex Saiz now?
Well, we're actually in the process of moving. We were close to the airport in actually right next to Turner Guilford Night Correctional Facility.
That's convenient.
It is. But me and my partner are actually going to be moving towards an office in Coconut Grove. We're actually mid-construction during the Corona quarantine. It's a challenge.
And so who's your partner?
I get the privilege of working with Joseph Lackey. He's actually, we've met at a perfect career points. He is an expert in immigration.
Oh, beautiful.
Who was moving into criminal more and more, whereas I wouldn't know if I'm an expert, but my expertise is criminal, and I'm moving into immigration more. So we've actually reached a point where we're in kind of perfect ability to kind of partner up and work on some of these cases together. I'm
jealous. I've never had a partner. And every time I have, it's like we're in different places in our careers.
Of course.
So I wish the both of you the very best. He's very lucky to have you by his side.
I think we're both pretty lucky.
So in the meantime, Alex, if people are interested in speaking with you or consulting with you, first of all, what kinds of cases are you accepting?
Well, so what happens is in
Now
law,
that you can control the decision.
exactly. In law, there's been always a movement more towards specialization, to do one type of case and only that type of case. What you find when you represent people in criminal or immigration is these things kind of change. The best example I can give to you is Lawyers to the Rescue, the incredible law clinic that you have founded at Camilla's house.
Sweet of
You can walk in there and you can have somebody start talking to you and say, oh, I have a criminal matter and that's why I've lost my benefits. Well, now you have a benefits issue. Well, I lost my benefits because of the divorce with my wife. Well, now you have a family law issue.
Right.
And so we started doing criminal and immigration because the majority of our clients, again, in this multicultural community of Miami, if you had a criminal case, a lot of them also had an immigration matter. Immigration clients were getting deported because of 1985 marijuana possession cases. So both sides were doing fine until all of a sudden they had a family issue, like a child adoption or something there. So my field would basically be immigration, criminal, and a lot of family law, as these things are kind of all bleed into each other.
Interesting, interesting. And as we're living through this pandemic, I was reading in the New York Times this morning about the number of people who were arrested in New York City for violating the social distancing. Have you come across any of those things here in South Florida?
Well, it's the police are in a very difficult position. Police are in a position where they don't want to come across as they are being too aggressive with people. We're seeing protests where people are feeling that being on quarantine and having these rules are too oppressive. But at the same time, they're trying to establish control. So I'm seeing a lot of cases in which people are picking up charges such as disorderly conduct or resisting a police officer from matters that started with not wearing a mask or not maintaining social distancing. This thing happened in Miami Beach where I believe it was South Point was open for a while until the police were citing so many people for social distancing and mask violations that they ended up closing the area.
Wow.
Now I'm still going to have clients who think they can go there and can pick up a trespass very simply because they're not following those rules. The police do not want a person not wearing a mask or not managing social distancing to wind up in a jail cell, but they will enforce those rules. And your situation can come from, I'm just taking a walk on a beach thinking everything's okay, to a ride to the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Facility very quickly. So I just tell people, if you're going to go, the Miami-Dade government, from the mayor of Miami-Dade to the mayor of Miami, are trying to constantly update the rules and procedures here. If you have any questions, reach out to a lawyer, check your news. You don't want to put yourself, the police, or the rest of the community in danger because you just don't understand what the rule is.
And in terms of immigration, one of the things that I was concerned about when I did a lot of medical malpractice cases, and I did a lot of these plastic surgery malpractice cases, and my clientele was often undocumented. And they were extraordinarily concerned about, one, entering into the civil litigation process being undocumented, and two, seeking medical care at a hospital. They were getting horrible infections and they were like, no, I'm going to treat this at home because I'm afraid of going to the hospital. Now with this pandemic, I'm wondering if you've seen people who are concerned that they may have the virus, but are worried that, gee, if I call fire rescue or if I go to the Baptist, I'm going to end up getting deported.
Yeah, it's one of the problems with immigration status is what it brings with it is fear. You're not part of you don't feel part of our community, so the community resources you don't want to use. So I do get calls from clients who are like, I've been sick for a while, but I don't want to go to the hospital unless I'm sure I have the coronavirus. Well, you're not going to know you're not going to be sure until you go to the hospital.
Right.
Almost universally, I've not had myself situations where people are being arrested at hospitals. For the most part, this is something that we talk about, and when we talk about creating not amnesty, but certain rules to allow people from these communities to participate in our system, without the fear of getting deported. There is nobody that benefits from somebody who thinks they have this disease being home without getting treatment. That doesn't help the community, either the immigrant community, the American public. No one benefits from that. But the fear in clients is so high that I get clients who will tell me, clients who have lawful permanent resident status, who lose their card. They're not deported, they're completely legal, but will tell me they don't want to come to the office because what if I get deported? You're not going to get deported, you're going to be fine. But the fear is there, and that causes people to act out. One of the things that we've talked about for years is, and one of the reasons why there's been so much litigation on this with things like the Violence Against Women Act, where people who were undocumented immigrants who were the victims of crimes didn't want to call police to report crimes because they were afraid of getting deported. And so they suffered in silence for years. What I try to tell people is not only are there private attorneys who will happily answer questions on immigration status, there are a number of tremendous organizations throughout the country and throughout Miami-Dade County that will answer these questions. Groups like Catholic Legal Services, Americans for Immigrant Justice, who would have no problem taking a call just to be able to explain to people what to do and how to do it.
And now, Alex, since you're a private attorney that handles immigration matters, are you willing to extend that kind of consultation to people who are concerned about this?
Absolutely. Anybody who wants to get in contact with me, that my Instagram page is at Alex J. Saiz. Again, I stand by my own name. Reach out to me. It's not a question of hiring a lawyer every single time. It's sometimes you're just going to ask somebody for specific advice. And sometimes if the lawyer is somebody who's trustworthy, they'll tell you, listen, you need a lawyer for this. You don't need a lawyer for that. You just need to know what's going on. I come from a family where we've had a number of people. Well, the majority of my family is not from the United States. They came from Cuba. They had their own immigration questions. And I get the image of them sitting at home, suffering in silence. And if I can help put your mind at ease and give you some information, please reach out to us.
That's wonderful. And if people don't have Instagram, they want to consult with you, will you do a Zoom consultation like we're doing now?
A little bit there. For me,
you do Zoom consultations?
Oh, I'll do Zoom consultations. I can do, we've done them through FaceTime. This is the issue that I have that's very big for a lot of practitioners during the Corona quarantine is certain things in courts have stopped, certain things have not. Immigration into the United States has stopped. Deportations have not. People getting to go to trial in their criminal case has stopped. People going to jail has not. So if you have any questions, this is one that I don't know how other lawyers do it. It's what's always worked for me. You can reach me out at my cell phone, 305-610-6140. It's the most way to get direct contact with me. I also have, reach out to me through Instagram. I can put you through with our office. You can look up my partner who has his firm, the office of Joseph Lackey. Any way you want to communicate with us, just let me know. We try to work out where we can be helpful. Where we can't, we tell people. Where we can, we fight hard.
And are you willing to give viewers of our podcast the initial free consultation?
I absolutely am. That's because I personally believe that when you meet with an attorney, you have to know what's going on before you can necessarily work out how much you can pay. You need to know what you're facing and what you're doing. That's when it comes to me. Anybody reaches out directly to me, I will happily take on your case to at least review and see what we can do.
Now, if folks are watching the podcast outside of Miami, does your office represent people across the state of Florida?
Across the state. I've got cases right now in Alachua County. We have a case over in Putnam. We have a couple throughout the west coast of Florida. For the most part, this is actually the easiest time to do that because almost all of the courts in Florida are operating via Zoom. So you can handle those cases anywhere. The big issue is being able to communicate with your attorney, make sure you feel comfortable with them. We've been having stuff in Brevard, in all over. It's not the easiest time to travel, but we are preparing cases, filing motions, and handling things throughout the state.
And I know that you're no longer working in public defense anymore, but just because I've always considered that something I would really want to do if I get into law.
I hope so.
Come on in.
I hope so.
But I'm wondering if you're familiar with what's actually going on with those cases right now during the virus, if like they're still meeting or like what's going on.
So one thing I will tell you is the thing with public defenders offices is they're like any other government office. Some are good, some are bad. We are lucky that in Miami-Dade County, we probably have the best or one of the best public defender offices in the entire United States. And I don't think that's hyperbole. I mean, in the United States. I've actually, when I was in Padilla, trained other offices throughout the state and throughout the country in immigration. And I can say the way we handle things in our office from the top down is probably the best you're going to see in the United States. In here, the number one concern for all criminal defense lawyers, for all immigration lawyers, is you have a client in custody in a place where it is going to be very, very hard to protect them from the coronavirus. So the number one priority for every public defender right now I know is getting people out of jail. It's how can we get people out during this process. Now, the state attorney's office through Catherine Fernandez-Rundle was very open about wanting to get especially nonviolent clients out of custody. But every client, there isn't this idea that the judge just opens the jail door and people walk out. Every client and every case has to be viewed individually. So every case has to be reviewed for priors, for charges, for violent crimes, for all of those things to see if the person can get out of custody. I happen to know the public defender's office is spending every waking hour going through and reviewing every single case they can to try to get people out of jail. Hearings are being done by Skype, not Skype, but Zoom. The Miami-Dade Criminal Court has tried very, very hard to increase their technological capabilities very quickly to see what we can do or not do. The big concern for me is we can do individual hearings. We can bring in witnesses via Zoom. What are we going to do with jurors? Because it's going to be a long time before we see 50 people sitting shoulder to shoulder in a courtroom while they talk to me about whether or not they're ready to go onto a jury.
Yeah, I'm worried about that too with my civil cases. And unlike you, now that you're in private practice, I don't get paid until I win. So the longer they push those trials out, the longer it's going to be before I'm going to be able to get compensated for my client and for myself.
Yeah, and I've talked to you about your civil practice before. I know how much you care about how this. You're sitting there with a client who has out money, who has had medical costs and all this other stuff, and you're a zealous advocate for them to get that. This is a delay that is going to help in civil practice. I feel help a lot of the big companies that are just trying to push and delay these cases and hope you go away.
100%. That's the problem I'm having with the cruise lines right now. They keep asking the judges to stay the cases. I'm like, look, these are multi-billion-dollar corporations. They can defend, if they can sail around the world, they can defend these cases. The courthouse is open, but
I would be
agreed, but some have agreed with the cruise lines.
I would be very nervous if I was a cruise ship lawyer being in front of a jury in the wake of this. Their reputation is not in the best position.
Yeah.
So if I were them, I would say delay this as much as I can. But you're sitting there with a person who's suffering some very serious injuries. The bills don't just go away. Their financial situation doesn't just go away, and you can't help them until you get a group of their, a jury of their peers sitting in a box.
Correct. And then the other consequence I'm concerned about, Alex, is that it's going to make them so desperate and so vulnerable to take any minuscule offer because they're out of work. Their medical bills have piled up. They don't know when they're ever going to see a jury. So they'll accept anything.
One of the things we talk about in criminal is the people in custody, guilty or not, are very likely to take a plea just to get out. That was the case in December. Could you imagine right now, I'm not guilty, but if I plead guilty and take something on my record or probation, I can get out of jail. And there's a man in the cell next to me who's been coughing nonstop this tonight. Of course you're going to take a plea to try to get out of jail.
Oh,
but you live with those consequences forever.
Frightening. Well, listen, I want to thank you for your service, for being our friend, for coming on the podcast. I'm so proud of you. I love you. I wish you the very best.
I honestly, when I saw your podcast, till I follow you on all your social media, I saw that I was like, I have to reach out to him because I just want to talk to him because I haven't been able, since I've been setting up the practice, been able to go to Lawyers to the Rescue. But one thing, if I could be very tacky and plug one thing,
of course,
on my Instagram page, you will see there's under my bio, there's a link for a GoFundMe account that we set up to benefit Camilla's house. Camilla's house, we all have been a little bit, tense being on a stay-at-home order. A lot of people don't have homes to stay in. Camilla's house, the homeless shelter in downtown Miami, has gone out of their way to increase testing, cleaning, and housing for people who are homeless during this quarantine. We've set up this GoFundMe to try to help offset some of those costs. If anybody who is just able to, in this very dire economic category, able to come donate, I would really appreciate it on behalf of
Absolutely. We'll put a link down here. You'll be pleased to know, Alex, that Lawyers to the Rescue donated a case of masks this week to the Camilla's house.
That's, again, Lawyers to the Rescue, beyond the work you guys do, it started, for those who don't know, it started as just lawyers volunteering in the kitchen, which in Camilla's house is a tremendous benefit to Camilla's house. But between that, the legal work, answering questions, and all the work that's done by this organization, I was just honored to be a part of it, and I'm very lucky to be able to get back into it.
Well, we can't wait to have you. We miss you. Thank you so much for being on our podcast. We wish you the best. We'll put all your contact information and links.
I appreciate it.
And hopefully I get to see you in person soon.
Thank you. I can't wait. I gotta go there because there's nothing better than seeing Spencer Aronfeld at 9 in the morning on a Saturday in a full suit, because that's how you do.
Or seeing Alex with his orange soda. There it is. I've been drinking orange soda lately. Maybe that's why I've been thinking of you.
There you go.
All right, brother. God bless you.
Take care. Both of you stay safe. And Nory, good luck next year. College is a very different beast right now than when I was there. But good luck. I know you're going to do great.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Take care.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.